So again, I will take your refusal.
Thanks for demonstrating my opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, order, decorum. She's off the rails.
Reclaiming my time. I'm not off the rails.
It's on MSNBC.
This
is my time.
I wouldn't want to jump in front of Ms. Mace if I were you. Chair recognizes Ms.
Mr. Chair, she did not get all of her time.
Mr. Chairman,
she wants to insult us for 10 more seconds.
What do we have to do to get this woman in order?
Her time has expired. Chair recognizes Ms. Mace.
You're going to be great on TV. You're really good. No, baby, you're not. No, baby, you're not. You are not in order. You're out of order. Goodbye. You're done. Mr. Chairman, it's my 5 minutes.
Ms. Mace,
are we good here? Mr. Chairman, thank you. As I listen to the witnesses answer questions, that I am struck by the truly breathtaking amount of fraud, the scope and scale perpetrated against the American people by Somalians in Minnesota. Screeching Democrats, like you just heard, at our witnesses. Democrats on this committee don't want to talk about Minnesota fraud because Minnesota fraud is Democrat fraud. You're going to make a great host on MSNBC. You're going to be great.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. If you just watched that clip, then you already know this hearing got heated very fast. What started as a discussion about fraud in public programs quickly turned into a tense exchange when Ayanna Pressley pressed witnesses about presidential pardons and accountability. Pressley asked witnesses to publicly oppose pardons linked to Donald Trump, including the controversial pardon of George Santos. When the witnesses refused to raise their hands, Pressley accused them of cowardice and the exchange quickly spiraled into chaos. Committee Chair James Comer eventually stepped in and cut off Pressley's time as the argument in the room intensified. Then the floor went to Nancy Mace. And that is where the hearing took a completely different turn. Instead of continuing the argument that had just taken over the room, Nancy Mace shifted the focus to something Mace argued was the real issue that had been ignored throughout the hearing. In this video we are going to break down what happened during that chaotic exchange, why the hearing got so intense, and how Nancy Mace redirected the conversation in a way that caught everyone's attention. If you enjoy breakdowns of the biggest moments happening inside Congress, make sure you like the video, subscribe to Congress Lens, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next analysis. Now let's get into it.
Thank you. Now to the witnesses who serve in the Minnesota State Legislature on the Fraud Prevention Committee, let's walk through these pardons for fraudsters, and we all care about fraud. So Ms. Robbins, Mr. Hudson, and Ms. Rarick, Donald Trump pardoned George Santos, who defrauded voters and owed them $370,000 in restitution to victims. Raise your hand if you oppose this pardon. Thank you, Mr. Ballou.
Ma'am, I would have to look at the law and the facts of the case. We cannot know the facts of all these individual cases.
Don't deflect. This is a very public case. You know who George Santos is. You know exactly what he did. We just agreed that, fraud is unacceptable. And you just talked about accountability. You said if people commit fraud and exploit the public good, that they should be incarcerated. So this is not a complicated question. So I will give you all one more opportunity. Ms. Robbins, Mr. Hudson, and Ms. Rarick. Raise your hand if you oppose the pardon of George Santos.
Not playing this game.
It's not a game. It's real life. It's not a game at all. Okay, but I will take your refusal to go on record, not only as cowardice, but that you do agree with that pardon of that fraudster. Moving on, Donald Trump also gave, and this has never been done before, presidential pardons to corporations that committed fraud. One example is the crypto company BitMEX that violated U.S. law and was fined $100 million. Now raise your hand if you oppose Trump's pardon of this crypto company.
Not participating.
Thank you, Mr. Ballou. Okay, again, I'll take your refusal to raise your hand in opposition. That means that you support this pardon of this corporation that frauded folks to the tune of $100 million.
Refusal to participate is not an expression.
Reclaiming my time.
To participate is not an expression one way or the other.
You know the rules of committee. This is my time.
I know that I am here as a member of the public.
Reclaiming my time. You are not, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
That's what I know.
You are not in order with the rules of the committee. This is my time. This is my time.
That's
I
our
ask the
dollars.
questions and you answer, but you're too much of a coward to answer. So we're going to move on. Now, yesterday was a 5-year anniversary, and I want to note of the January 6th insurrection. And on Donald Trump's first day in office, he pardoned 1,500 insurrectionists, including Brian Christopher Mock, who's from Minnesota. Are y'all going to say you don't know who that is? He's from Minnesota. Now, he kicked, shoved, and threw a flagpole at police officers, law enforcement that you claim to support. And he did all of that in the name of fraud. He was an election denier, so an election fraud lie. Now, he claims he did these things in the name of patriotism, but really he's just a criminal. So raise your hand if you oppose Trump's pardon of this Minnesota individual.
Ma'am, this grandstanding nonsense
this is not grandstanding.
Exactly
this is
what Minnesotans hate about D.C.
This is accountability, and you are hypocrites. So again, I will take your refusal to
demonstrating my opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, order, decorum. She's off the rails.
Reclaiming my time. I'm not off the rails, please.
You are totally off the rails.
Nancy, enough with your tropes. Give me my time back.
Order, Mr. Chairman.
If Republicans are serious about reclaiming
Lady, time expired.
Me.
You
Pressley,
time expired.
my constituents.
You have no time left.
Don't get to accuse me of things in this chamber.
You're out of time. You're out of time.
You're out of
time. We're done here. We're done.
Touch in out of time.
At least 10
Mr. Chair, she's out of time.
Time's expired.
Out of order and out of time.
Ms. Pressley, you've already secured your MSNBC spot tonight.
I'm
Your time's required.
looking for
Chair
accountability,
recognizes Ms.
and you
Mace
want to
from
run from the
South
South
Carolina.
Carolina. Chair
Of your
recognizes Ms.
king
Mace.
and this administration.
Thank you, Mr.
Chair
Chairman.
recognizes Ms.
And
Mace.
Mr. Chairman, I agree. She's
don't
going to be a
care
great
about
host on
hungry children. You wanna be
MSNBC.
cutting
This is
back.
my
I
time.
wouldn't want to jump in front of
reclaim
Ms.
my
Mace if I were you, Ms. Pressley.
I reclaim my time. This is my time.
I wouldn't want to interrupt Ms. Mace. It's her time. Chair recognizes Ms. Oh.
Mr. Chair,
You're out of order.
she did not get all of her time.
Mr. Chairman,
She wants to insult us for 10 more seconds.
What do
Your
we have
time
to
has
do to
expired.
get this
Chair-
woman in order?
Her time has expired. Chair recognizes
You're
Ms.
going to
Mace.
be great on TV. You're really good. No, baby, you're not. No, baby, you're not. You are not in order. You're out of order. Goodbye. You're done.
right.
Mr. Chairman, it's my
Chair
5
recognizes
minutes.
Ms. Mace.
Are we good here?
got
Mr.
it.
Chairman, thank you. As I listen to the witnesses answer questions today, I'm struck by the truly breathtaking amount of fraud, the scope and scale perpetrated against the American people by Somalians in Minnesota. And so while we're still trying to understand the scale of the fraud, it appears that the amount of fraud we are talking about could exceed the size of GDP in Somalia, the size of its economy is what we're talking about. So let that sink in, the amount of fraud we're talking about. My first question is this, Mr. Balyu, this afternoon. Should Somalians in Minnesota be required to speak English, their citizens? Yes or no? Should they be required to speak English if they're American citizens?
I think that question is really inappropriate.
Should they? It's not inappropriate. This is the United States of America. Do you speak English? Should Americans speak English? Citizens speak English? Yes or no?
Point of inquiry: is English the official language of the United States? It's a question.
Mr. Chairman, I'm being interrupted
That's
again
not
by
a valid
another
parliamentary inquiry.
I would like to reclaim my time, Mr.
citizenship
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reclaim my time.
She's
That
asking
seems
the
to be a
witness.
popular
She's
theme
asking
today.
That's not a valid inquiry.
It's a point of inquiry.
Women have a right to speak in this committee. Conservative women have the right to speak here and not be interrupted by my male colleagues. Mr. Chairman, I would like to reclaim my time. I lost like 10 seconds there.
Okay, we'll give you 10 seconds.
Okay, my next question is, should Somalians who committed fraud be denaturalized and deported, Mr. Balyu?
Again,
Yes
I'm not
or
sure
no?
that's an appropriate question because the majority of Somali
So if you
Minnesotans
commit
are
fraud in
citizens.
this country and you are here from Somalia, you don't believe they should be denaturalized and deported. How
Again,
much fraud would it take for you to want to denaturalize and deport someone who committed fraud in this country? How much?
Again,
A
Ms.
billion?
Mace,
9 billion? 19 billion? What would it take for you?
most Somali Minnesotans are citizens.
Right. And the ones that committed fraud, the question was, if you understand English, should be those who committed fraud, should they be denaturalized and deported? The Somalians who are here, the ones that can't speak English.
Yeah, so under U.S. law...
Okay, my next question for you
Can I please finish the
is,
question?
no, you can't because you're not answering the question. My next question is, this is yes or no. If you marry your brother and you commit immigration fraud, should you be denaturalized and deported? If you
Again,
commit immigration fraud, yes or no?
Again, that question seems really inappropriate. And if I can get
Well, you
back to
can't
your
answer
question...
my question, so that's probably more inappropriate. Can you name one significant contribution to Minnesota from a Somali immigrant who can't speak English?
Absolutely, yes. But again, this is...
You didn't name one. All right, so my next questions are going to be for the Honorable Ms. Robbins. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. I heard some discussion earlier about al-Shabaab and the discovery that you believe some of this money that was defrauded the U.S. government went to al-Shabaab. Is that correct? Did I hear that right?
Yes, it's been proven.
How much money are we talking about?
You know, we don't have an amount. So there's been specific cases where it's been charged where we have an amount, but then of the millions that go to Somali over the years in remittances, a portion of that we understand is taken as sort of a tax or corruption by al-Shabaab when it enters the country.
Can you explain to us who al-Shabaab is?
It's a terrorist organization in Somalia.
And they're affiliated with al-Qaeda, is that right?
My understanding is they are.
I am on the DNI website where it tells me that since 2014, al-Shabaab has killed more U.S. citizens than any other al-Qaeda affiliate. And as of 2025, al-Shabaab, this group is al-Qaeda's wealthiest component. Can you believe that?
Yes.
And that American tax dollars through Minnesota, through Governor Tim Walz, who shamefully had to resign from his reelection the other day, thank you to the young YouTuber Nick Shirley, this is the kind of thing that was happening in Minnesota. So I praise the Republicans who are here today from the Minnesota State Legislature exposing this fraud. And then, Ms. Robbins, when do you think Tim Walz became aware of the fraud?
I think he's been aware of it since the beginning. This was a huge issue in our state in the year he ran for governor, and the OLA reports came out, first identifying the child care fraud in March and April of 2019 when he was in the first months of his term.
After watching the entire hearing, the difference between the two moments is honestly pretty striking. During Ayanna Pressley's questioning, the hearing became very confrontational. Pressley repeatedly pushed witnesses to take political positions on specific pardons. When the witnesses declined to do that, the exchange turned into a tense argument about accountability and political motives. By the time Chairman James Comer stepped in to enforce the time limits, the room was already filled with interruptions and accusations. Then Nancy Mace took the floor. Instead of continuing the same argument, Nancy Mace immediately shifted the focus to something else entirely. Mace began talking about what Mace described as a massive fraud scandal connected to programs in Minnesota. According to Mace, the scale of the alleged fraud was enormous and had not received enough attention in the discussion taking place in the room. Nancy Mace argued that millions of taxpayer dollars may have been involved and suggested the scale of the fraud was extremely serious. From there, Nancy Mace began questioning one of the witnesses directly. Mace asked whether immigrants who become American citizens should be expected to speak English. The question immediately drew objections from others in the room, with one member asking whether English is officially the national language of the United States. But Nancy Mace continued the line of questioning. Mace then asked whether individuals who commit fraud after becoming citizens should face consequences such as denaturalization or deportation if their citizenship was obtained through fraud. The witness repeatedly avoided giving a direct answer and said the questions were inappropriate. That created another tense moment in the hearing. Nancy Mace responded by pointing out that the witness was not answering the question and then moved on to other issues connected to the fraud investigations in Minnesota. At that point, the discussion shifted toward national security concerns. Nancy Mace asked another witness about claims that some funds connected to fraud investigations may have ended up benefiting Al-Shabaab, which has been linked to Al-Qaeda. The witness confirmed that some cases had raised concerns about money being diverted through remittance systems, although the exact amount was not clear. That moment raised the stakes in the hearing because the conversation moved beyond domestic fraud and into potential national security risks. Nancy Mace then questioned witnesses about what Minnesota officials knew about the fraud and when they became aware of it. During this part of the hearing, Nancy Mace referenced Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison, suggesting that state leadership may have been aware of the fraud for years before stronger action was taken. Witnesses responded by saying the issue had been publicly discussed in Minnesota for some time and that efforts to strengthen oversight had faced challenges within state agencies. Before finishing, Nancy Mace also submitted articles into the Congressional record referencing investigations into fraud tied to food assistance programs and other public funds. When you look at the full sequence of events in this hearing, two very different approaches played out back to back. Ayanna Pressley focused heavily on political accountability related to presidential pardons and pushed witnesses to take clear public positions. Nancy Mace shifted the conversation toward fraud investigations, oversight, immigration policy, and possible national security implications tied to the misuse of taxpayer funds. Whether someone agrees with Nancy Mace's questions or not, one thing is clear. Nancy Mace changed the direction of the hearing and brought attention to an issue that had not been the main focus earlier in the exchange. And that is exactly why this moment has been getting so much attention online. But I want to hear what you think. Do you think Nancy Mace was right to redirect the conversation toward fraud investigations, or do you think the earlier focus on pardons and accountability was the more important issue? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns of major moments happening in Congress, stay right here on Congress Lens.